Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Cumberland series, 128 parishes in what used to be Carlisle, Copeland and Allerdale in Western Cumbria. Let's dive in and see what we've got today. Welcome back to Cumberland again, people. Once again, we're exploring another small village in this western portion of the county of Cumbria. Nikki is again with me, just putting her boots on. We've got a little route around this place to walk. There's a bit which might be a bit muddy, that's why the boots are going on. But generally speaking, it's mainly roads and paths, so it shouldn't be too bad. Welcome to the delightful little village and parish of Greysouthen. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Greysouthen, Suthan's Cliff. Welcome again everyone to another parish of Cumberland, this time the delightful little village of Greysouthen, located between Cockermouth and Workington on a shallow hill known as the Went. Now before we go any further, let's get this fact out of the way. The village's name to anyone who isn't local reads as Greysouthen. However, if you're a Cumbrian native, you're probably screaming at the screen right now. This is one of those villages that's pronounced differently if you're a local. To the folk that live here, this is Greysouthen. Until recently, there were no signposts to the village on the major roads in the area. If you do find your way here though, you will be met with a series of terraced rows, all of which used to house mine workers. There's a park and a village hall, but no pub, although alcohol has been an important commodity here in the past. Legend has it that Greysouthen miners were more concerned with ale than they were with coal. Greysouthen also features high stone walls, a striking feature and one of the reasons it was made into a conservation area in 1984. Standing 12 feet high, they surround the mansion and its associated grounds. So, let's go for another little walk, shall we? We start on a street called Went Meadows, which is named after a hill called the Went. Although it's only a shallow hill, Greysouthen sits practically on top of it, and its presence divides the village into two parts, known by the locals as Up the Went and Down the Went. Either way you go, you get a lot of countryside. We had our wellies on for this one because even though most of the route was along paved roads, Harper's Lane was quite the mud bath. It's a bridleway which runs to Main Street, running around the back of Went Meadows. From here, just by looking around, it's possible to appreciate how hilly this place is, although you don't really notice it all that much underfoot. Two local streams run through the surrounding farmland. At the end of Harper's Lane, you come to the local allotments, which I almost missed. The path starts to become a little less treacherous as we join the main village street. Greysouthen is another former coal mining settlement, characterised by neat little terraced rows, both along and adjacent to Main Street. Greysouthen's mining history can be traced back to the late 16th century, but it was in the early 19th century that it really took off. It was soon the village's sole form of employment, but it only lasted until 1886. Here's a parish notice board. Mark off Greysouthen, everyone. Some of the mining history is remembered by way of its street names. Not far from this point you'll find a side street called Fletcher's Croft. It references J.W. Fletcher, who along with Joseph Birbeck began mining in Greysouthen in 1823. The population back then was almost double what it is today, and this was a typical coal mining settlement, a thriving community. We found a flyer on a lamppost here advertising a whisky tasting session at the village hall. Alcohol has always been important to the locals. In fact, Greysouthen's 19th century miners had a reputation for their ale consumption. I wonder how many pints they sank in this, the Punch Bowl, Greysouthen's old village inn. This has now been converted into flats, and the village no longer has any pubs at all. The narrow village street continues. You may notice a large striking wall on the left-hand side. That surrounds a property known as the Mansion, which began as a small 17th century farmhouse, later given an imposing facade that looks out over some landscape grounds. It's obviously private, so instead, here we have the Queen's Silver Jubilee Garden and the small row of houses behind it. You will notice several properties in Greysouthen that buck the Cumbrian trend when it comes to their external paintwork. Check out this bright pink house, for example, just beyond the garden. Although there is a bus stop in the village, you won't be catching any services at it. Greysouthen's last bus ran along these roads in 2015. Subsidised by the county council, it linked the village to Cockermouth and Workington, but is now no more. We've now reached a corner where a fork off to the right takes us up Chapel Terrace towards Greysouthen Park. Greysouthen Park consists of a playground and a large playing field with a football pitch, as well as a communal seating area created as part of a project to celebrate the turn of the millennium. As far as I'm aware, there are no village sports teams here. However, this was a peaceful place to perch for a few moments and reflect on our trip around the place so far. So in much the same way as Brigham, it's another very residential place this. There's only really one major landmark left, and that would be the village hall, which we'll catch on the way back down to the car. We've decided to have a little perch on this bench just for a minute and sort of get our breath a little bit. What are you thinking about this place, Nikki?
To be fair, it's much of a muchness to the others, just quieter.
It is very quiet.
You can hear a pin drop here.
Not much traffic. Not much in the way of traffic, is there?
No, but you still insist on walking in the middle of the road.
Well, yeah. I mean, I do have my high vis on for a reason. Sometimes there aren't any footpaths. In fact, one of the ones we used was, technically speaking, a private footpath, although there was no sign telling us. Yeah. So you know, much us apologies for that, but I'd much rather walk on a path than walk in the middle of the road for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's a nice little place. It feels like it's in the middle of nowhere, to be quite honest with you. It's surrounded by lots of lush open green fields and lots of scenery and birds and all that kind of stuff.
You can hear
nature
an
type
aircraft,
stuff.
but I don't think that certainly not directly on the flight path here.
No, there's no airports close by. Not any that I'm aware of. Not yet, at least, anyway. So yeah, you never know. Might come across one at some point, but certainly not a major one. Not a major UK airport. So we'll have 5 minutes here and then we'll finish off the main walk by heading down to the village hall and back to where we began. There are no extra bits in this one, it's just a simple walk, and what a nice place and a simple walk this has been. Leaving Nikki in the park, for the next few minutes I was on my own. This is Chapel Terrace, whose name refers to a former Wesleyan building. It's now a house, and it's at the top of the street on the right, just before this path, which goes to Overend Road. Greysouthen was not like Broughton when it comes to the nonconformists. There was a Wesleyan society here by 1822, and the chapel was built in 1833. There was also a Quaker community here too. They had a meeting house built in 1741, but it had closed by the turn of the 1880s. We've now reached an unnamed road off the top of Main Street. This is a dead end and again wholly residential, barring a farm on the right hand side. Even though mining has long since disappeared, there are still several working farms here. Greysouthen once had local trades, like a local blacksmith. Directly opposite the farm is the old smithy, currently on your screens now. The modern Greysouthen resident commutes to the local towns, like Cockermouth and Workington, for work. Via Jenny Lane, a path through a little complex of houses, we're back to Main Street again as we head back to the south. In spite of having no school, church or pub, Greysouthen remains a thriving community. It even has its very own village website called Greysouthen Online. The village hall is the main meeting place for its inhabitants. Its official name is the Joseph Harris Memorial Hall, and it was built in the late 19th century. This hosts events such as fitness classes and band practices, and every Wednesday night at 7 p.m, indoor bowls is played here too. Alright, we're just a few steps away from the end. I love how there's so many multicoloured houses in this one. I mean, obviously the pink house, which you saw, and the blue house, which I'm not sure if I did capture it or not. I think I did. There's all kind of colours around here. I mean, obviously there's a yellow one there, there's a light blue one. It reminds me a bit of Balamory, indeed, yeah. Even though we're nowhere near Balamory, although we are on the right side of the country for that, because Balamory in Scotland is on the Isle of Mull, yeah, which is on the western side of the UK, so I suppose it makes a bit of sense. All of these Cumbrian influences. I was literally just going to say that. All these Cumbrian villages seem to have a Gaelic sort of feel to them, an Irish feel to them.
There's an event happening in this village, which is like a whiskey tasting, and they've put sláinte on the poster, which is an Irish way of saying cheers.
Yeah, well there you go. Now you know. Right, let's head out of Greysouthen and on to the next one. And that's been Greysouthen, or if you will, Greysoon. You can bet your bottom dollar there will be comments about that below. Regardless of what you want to call it, it's the typical West Cumbrian village, a mining community which has changed a lot over the last 200 years, but has remained warm and welcoming to all. See you next time, folks. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.